Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Quarantine Bunker Studio. I am your man in Japan, Jay Contra, and we're spicing up our shop visit videos for this week. I pre-recorded the showcase at Trader, the main location in Akihabara, and I'm just going to be reacting to that video so that you've got some high quality audio finally from a shop visit video, and it's going to allow me to go more in depth with the games that are available, going into the price deltas, as well as like completed box versus the cartridge, talking about their general rarity, or just go into detail about this stuff. So without further ado, I'm just going to start it so that we can actually start reacting to this stuff. So here we go. We've got lots of Super Famicom games on the top left. Bottom left, we've got some Genesis games, and we're going into the specific video games now. So what do we have here? So, okay, hitting pause. The top right game in this frame is very special. This is Takahashi Meijin's Bolkenjima 4. This is, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the last game that was the last licensed game released for the Famicom. So essentially, like, they made some extra games, decades later for the Famicom, but this is the last real Famicom release. That means it was probably printed in low numbers, and that's why you see this complete in-box copy going for about $360 after tax. So right now it's about $1 is equivalent to 110 yen. You also have to factor in that Japanese sales tax is 10%. And I'm not sure if Trader does tax-free or not. I know places like Mandarake will do tax-free, but I've never actually done tax-free myself, so I can't tell you. It probably does, but don't quote me on that. So the interesting thing about this is that at the bottom right, we've got for the Game Boy Advance, we have the Hudson Best Collection that collects the 4 Takahashi Meijin Bokenjimas, the 4 Adventure Islands. Did these ever get released in America? I'm not sure. Thing about the game, this game actually combines two very interesting phenomena to me. The first is that Game Boy Advance games are really out of control. Filming this in the end of March 2020, Game Boy Advance games are really peaking right now, and they have for about the last year or two. The other trend, and I don't know if this is unique to Japan or not, but in Japan, collections or re-releases of games can really hold their value. So this is a collection of Famicom games for the Game Boy Advance. There's a lot of like, especially shooting collections. I know for the PlayStation 2, there are a lot of shooting collections. Like, I think there's like Sikyo or Saikyo shooting collections that are still like $60. There's a lot of it's also for the PlayStation 2. There's a lot of like Sega Genesis re-releases and like best collections, like a lot of like shooting collections for like Taito or other game makers. They can get really expensive. I know the PSP has a lot of shooting collections that are really expensive. So this just combines those two, and that's why it's going for about $180 for a Game Boy Advance game. Similarly, on the left, we have Kiki Kaikai Adobansu, Paki and Rocky Advance. Pocky and Rocky is a really expensive series. They're really good. They're fine games, but really $370 for a Pocky and Rocky game. I mean, if it's worth it to you, then go ahead. But you can get the Super Famicom ones. So I don't know what this is going to be loose. I imagine these Game Boy Advance games, when they're loose, aren't going to be that expensive, and maybe that's what's happening. I've seen a lot of Game Boy Advance games get really expensive, but that might just be the complete in box versions. Maybe you can find these loose for a lot cheaper. I can tell you for a comparison, the Pocky and Rocky 1 for the Super Famicom loose can be $80 in Tokyo. It can be, I want to say like $300, maybe even $500 for just the first one. The second one is even more expensive. But the first one, the differential between the cartridge version and the complete version is really, really wide. Looking at the top left for the Famicom, this is a game I've not seen before, so I can't tell you if it's good or not. We've got Mitsume ga Toru, which is, it's just about a guy who has three eyes. I don't know what it's about. Moving on. So yeah, there's more Takahashi Meijin. We get to see the full label. I can't remember the timing on this, so I apologize. Looking over here, so here we've got a lot of very expensive Famicom games. In general, Famicom games have really stabilized and have actually started going down in price. We've got some really the most expensive ones right here, except for Rekka, Summer Carnival 92. The top left, we've got Gimmick for $630. If you don't know Gimmick, it's one of the, I think probably considered one of the best games for the Famicom. It only received a release in Japan and I think a limited release in Europe. Did it get released in Europe? Someone let me know. So Gimmick, if it was mint, and this looks actually like it's in pretty good condition. Gimmick can be $700 very easily. This might actually represent a sort of slide in the price. It going for $600. It's in a clamshell case, loose. I wouldn't pay over $300 for this, and that was if it's like in real mint condition. The copies of Gimmick that I've seen, I think the glue for the label to the cartridge browns quite easily, so it can go from anywhere from like $200 to $300 when it's loose. Next to it on the right, you've got Battle Formula. This is another interesting sort of like Japan specific indication of rarity or really expensive price. But so it's going for $780. It is probably the second rarest or the second most expensive Famicom game, or regular release Famicom game. And the reason it's so expensive is because it is I think a foreign developed title, I think. This was released as Super Spy Hunter, I think was the name of it, for the NES in both, I think, America and Europe. It's a relatively cheap game, but in Japan, I think it had a limited print run, and so it's really sought after to complete a collection. I don't personally believe that it's worth $780 when you can just buy the NES version for a lot cheaper, but there it is. It often competes, yeah, with Summer Carnival 92 Rekka to be the most expensive regular release Famicom game. Next to it, you've got I can't read the label there, but it is a game about a witch. I think for $330. I don't know what it's about. On the bottom left, in the best jumble of katakana I've ever seen, you've got, it just says Schwarzenegger Predator. So this is Predator for the Famicom, released by Pack-In Video for $120. I've not played it, so I can't tell you if it's worth that. Probably loose, you could probably find it for $20. If it's $120 in the box, it's going to be a lot cheaper loose. Looking over there, so we've got on the top left, we have the most expensive Super Famicom game. It is Rendering Ranger R2. This is sort of like, I don't know if it's a spiritual successor, but it is related to Super Turrican. It is by those developers, and Rendering Ranger R2, it is a Japan exclusive Super Famicom game, and it's going for, here's the price, it is $2,700. I've seen this go for, I think, $3,500. I think I've seen it for that price when it's in mint A-grade condition at Mandarake. So you're actually getting kind of a deal here at Trader. Again, Trader is actually a really great place. If you're in Akihabara, I highly recommend you go there. There's only even one place. I'd say probably Friends and Trader often vie for the top place in my heart of video game shops in Akihabara. Rendering Ranger R2, I think it's just a side scroller, or like just a regular shooter. On the bottom left is Gavara. This was by SNK. It's $300 complete. It's actually really expensive when you find it even loose. It goes from anywhere from $50 to $60. I think it's sort of like a Contra-esque shooter, but I can't. I think I've seen screenshots for this game. I haven't played it. I want to though. So this is like, look at that. That's very easily, $5,000 plus worth of video games right there. Moving down, we get to more Game Boy Advance games. Just again, Game Boy Advance games are really peaking right now. We've got Deji Communication 2. That is going for $150 complete in box. Couldn't tell you what that's about. Then we've got on the right, we've got V Rally 3 going for almost $200. And if you look at the, so it's got writing on the label there. It says Hako Itami, meaning that the box has some damage to it. Just from this distance, I can't really tell what's wrong with it. It looks perfectly fine to me. I think this is an example of a game much like Super Spy Hunter or Battle Formula. Or, sorry, I can't even remember what the name is now. It's one of those games that was released by a foreign developer, probably had a limited localization release in Japan, and people just wanted to complete collections. That's why it's $200. Moving on. Anything? Yeah, no, nothing else I can say about those games. Here we go over to some Super Famicom games. We've got Harley's Humongous Adventure going for $300. Maybe it's worth that. I haven't played it. And then we've got Bugs Bunny's Hachamecha Daiboken. Bugs Bunny's Adventure. I don't know what the English name for this is going to be. Oh, is that a Sunsoft game? Interesting. Okay, so this is a $350 game. This is one of those things where it's like a foreign property. You'll see this later, I think, with some of the, with like the Marvel games or the DC games, like the superhero games. They're like foreign properties that are sort of known in Japan. They get a release for the Super Famicom, and they're like way more expensive in Japan than they are in the United States or Europe. For whatever reason, probably just limited print runs. Moving up, oh, yep, there we go. There we've got Justice League going for $260, and that's actually, it's not even mint. There's a lot of, I know there's a lot of like the Marvel, there's a bunch of X-Men games that got released, or I think a couple maybe even Avengers games that got released for the Super Famicom that are also really expensive. We've got Holy Umbrella, which is a hell of a name. That's going for $360. I couldn't tell you what that's about either. And then we've got Mr. Nuts. Mr. Nuts going for $700. Is Mr. Nuts worth that much? Much more interesting to me. We've got Undercover Cops and Iron Commando. These are some, allegedly, I haven't played them myself, but I really want these. These are some really, really good beat 'em ups. Iron Commando is often vies for like it's definitely in the top 5 of the most expensive games. Undercover Cops, I think I've seen that for like $700 at least a couple years ago. So I think Super Famicom games are generally leveling out finally. They really shot up in price like 3-4 years ago, and Undercover Cops for $500 is definitely, it's something if I was a millionaire I would consider. Today I would just probably buy the loose copy. These are games that I know I've seen Iron Commando go for $150 loose. If you can find it at Mandarake, which is a little scratch on it, you can probably find it for $150 loose. Undercover Cops, man, $500 seems pretty cheap, actually, to me. But that's because it seems to have damage to the box. Same goes for Iron Commando. But when I say damage, especially at like Trader or Mandarake, it's usually just like a couple of the ink, little bits of the ink have flaked off, and that's like, whoa, that's big damage. We gotta slash the price on this. That's just how quality in Japan is measured. Moving on. Oh, also the interesting thing about Iron Commando is it actually got a re-release recently as like a full cartridge that you can buy new for I think like $70 in its like modern form. But if that's something, if you want like an actual physical cartridge of Iron Commando, you can buy that re-release, and that's also an option. What else do we have? So we got Mr. Nuts on the right, $700. Never actually seen this game. Then we got the Flintstones, The Treasure of Sierra Mad Rock. That is going for $280, the title release. And then we've got Battlemobile going for $300. Don't know anything about these games, so I will move along. Next, we've got a lot of these Super Famicom games. The thing about the Famicom and the Super Famicom is these have absolutely huge libraries. These are consoles that have 1,000 games plus to each of them. So you see a lot of these rare games, but you know, when you've got like 30 rare games, and then just, they're still, to me personally, I think they're really affordable games or really affordable systems. They've just got these sort of like top 100 games that are really expensive, and just so many games. How are you supposed to keep track of all this? There's so many games out there that how can you know all of these? Because we've got like Plock, $450 by Activision. Never seen that before. We've got Sutehakun for $260. I don't even know what that's about. Then we've got a interesting, a Nintendo game, well, I guess what it was Kirby, not Hudson, Hal, going for, so it's Kabi no Kira Kira Kisu. Wow, $300 for a Kirby game. That's really surprising to me. I didn't think that they were printed. Is it because it was printed in low quantities? Wow, interesting. Never expected to see a $300 Kirby game. Then looking above, we've got some also very interesting games up there. We've got we've got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for $900. Is this? No, it's a Japanese version. Sorry, the box actually kind of looked like a Super Nintendo to me. So this is actually, yeah, this is, I think, definitely in the top 10 of rarest games for the Super Famicom. It's loose. I want to say it a couple years ago it was like $100. It was under $100, but I think a bunch of the loose games really crept up in price. I doubt they're going to keep going up in price because I think everyone sort of moved on to the N64 and the PlayStation. Who knows what's going to happen to these? Next, we've got Stone Protectors. That's going for mystery price. And I say mystery price, this drives me absolutely nuts. I hate how they do this in the showcase. Trader's actually really good about actually at least showing like the labels or the fronts of these games. I've been to a lot of shops that they will hide the price on the, I don't want to say it's hide the price, but it's they just do not care about presentation. They just throw the expensive stuff into a showcase without really letting you know what's even in there. It drives me absolutely nuts. And it can actually be really challenging if you don't know Japanese because you'll only see, like I know like Super Potato does this a lot where it will just it'll just almost be like a bookcase of games to where you only see the labels, and unless your katakana is really good, you have no idea what these things are, and maybe like the price will be so microscopic it'll be really hard to tell what's there. So all right, we're going to the really expensive stuff now because we've got Ghost Pilots for the Neo Geo. That's $350. That seems actually fairly good though, because I think Ghost Pilots, I saw it recently on the Neo Geo CD going for like $80. So it's a shooter. I'm sure it's fine. I haven't played it myself. We're going to be getting into the Sega Genesis or the Mega Drive here in Japan, and Mega Drive games, the rare Mega Drive games, are really expensive. Here we've got Pengo that's going for $400. There's some really expensive stuff. I actually think we hit not the most expensive game, but like the second most expensive game in this showcase. Yeah, so we've got Twinkle Tail. That's, I'm pretty sure, a shooter, right? I think this is really, really prized. It's going for $670. Whoa. Then we've got El Viento. That's going for $200, and that's actually by Wolf Team. That means it's a shooter, right? No, it's an action game. I thought Wolf Team did shooters, but I think this. Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't know that much about it. Here we go. Here are some of the most expensive games for the Mega Drive. We've got Eliminate Down. This is the, I want to say, second most expensive Genesis game. The most expensive is Maximum Carnage. It's one of those games that it's a foreign property, the superhero game that's like $100 in the US, very cheap. It is, sorry, Maximum Carnage is easily like $5,000. I think it's maybe 3 or 4. It was a couple years ago for the Mega Drive in Japan. Here we've got Eliminate Down. This is a Japan exclusive Mega Drive game. It's a shooter by Soft Vision. It is going for $1,600. Better be a hell of a shooter. Then we've got the other shooter, Battle Mania. I'm pretty sure that's a shooter. It's by Vic Tokai. Yeah, actually what I really like about the Mega Drive games in Japan is that they will either have the sort of the genre printed on the cover, or you can see the little like F-16 or the little jet fighter that's shooting. That means it's a scrolling shooter. Then we've also got on the right, we've got Vampire Killer. It is the one Castlevania game that I will never buy. As much as I love Castlevania, I'm not spending $500. Maybe when I'm a millionaire, I will buy Vampire Killer, or maybe when people don't care about Mega Drive games anymore, because this is going for $500, and I am really really nervous about buying expensive Japanese games because, and especially I would really not recommend buying expensive Japanese games through eBay, because I have seen a lot of, especially for Vampire Killer, I have seen a lot of people selling bootlegs. It is very easy to go to a site like like Alibaba and get a reproduction of Vampire Killer that you can, if you look closely enough and you have the knowledge of what the original Vampire Killer looks like, you can tell the difference. My fear is that a lot of shops in Akihabara do not really inspect their games. I do not believe that. I think there is a certain level of trust that they put on the people selling games to these shops, to where they just look at it, they grade it, they don't really check to see if it's a counterfeit or not. Maybe some shops do. Probably a place like Mandarake probably has an expert in these things, but who is going to be expert enough to know what a counterfeit Mega Drive, Neo Geo, PlayStation 1, Famicom, Super Famicom, who's going to know all of these things? And especially, I doubt these shops are actually going to pay the premium to employ someone like this. So from what I've heard of people selling games to these Akihabara shops is, they look at it, if it's really expensive, then they might have a manager come over and look at it. But I doubt any of these people are making enough to have the expertise to actually know what a counterfeit looks like. And so I would hesitate, because I've seen on eBay, some people, yes, probably know that what they're selling is a counterfeit. But I also believe that there's a bunch of people, a lot of foreigners, who don't know that these games are counterfeits. And they're like, oh, I've got Vampire Killer. I bought it from someone on eBay. I've gotten tired of it. I'm now going to sell it for $500 on eBay, when it's like a $50 repro that you buy off of Alibaba. I would just be really careful about buying expensive games, especially when it's something that's sought after, like Vampire Killer, Rendering Ranger, those games that sort of people in the community know about, and like Vampire Killer has a big interest because it's a Castlevania game, but no one really has that depth of knowledge to know what a counterfeit looks like. So I know I've been going on for this too much, but that's just to emphasize, just be careful with expensive games like this. And then we've got, switching gears to the Sega Saturn, we've got Tribe Rush Deppy, going for $400. Sega Saturn games, they got really expensive years ago, and they remain expensive. Although I have seen a couple go down in price. Next up, we have, I assume we're going to, yeah, so let's just talk about Serial Experiments Lain. This is by far the most expensive PlayStation game. The really only other competition, I think, is it's like Space Seed Gaia. It's a shooting game that I see every once in a while going for like $300. Serial Experiments Lain. What's interesting about this copy here is that it is complete. It is mint. There's nothing wrong with that box. It also has the spine cover, the obi, and look at that. You can actually see on the bottom left corner, this was released whenever, I can't remember, but it's got the original price. This was released for 5,800 yen. That is about $60, back in the mid 90s. And it is now trading used. Although this is like a minty fresh copy. I cannot believe they got this. It is $420. And then if you look at the right, it's got the official guide. The official guide is $130. Whoa. Wow, this is really like if you really, this is the copy I would buy, because this is easily going to be way more expensive at Mandarake if it was in similar condition. That is, whoa, wow. I don't even know what this game is. Like, I just know, I've just seen it. I barely know the anime from seeing it in I think I saw commercials for it. I might have seen print, in GamePro. I don't know. Did that get a US release? I'm not sure. So here we go. We're going to the expensive of the expensive. We're just going from Neo Geo from here on out. We have on the right, we've got Go Kaiza. That's going for $730. Wow. And then we've got Matra Melee on the left for $1,300. crazy. It is. I don't know what either of these games are. I just know that they're really, really expensive. And then we've got, oh, look at that. It's so we've got on the top left, we've got Nam 1975, pretty well regarded. I think this is a launch Neo Geo game that's a really good shooter. I remember this is one of those, I remember I looked at like the Racket Boy, like cheap Neo Geo games that you could buy. It's like, it was what, Nam 1975 or Nam 75, and Magician Lord, that even over the last couple of years, their prices have doubled because these are sort of like seen as the good, cheap games that you could get for the Neo Geo, and still they're getting really expensive. And then on the right, we've got Gangan for $240. I'm really hoping Neo Geo prices go down because, boy, I would love to collect some Neo Geo games. I'm not rich and I can't afford that stuff. Here we've got Thrash Rally on the left by Alpha for $180, and we've got a baseball game on the right going for $330. Jeez. And then here we go. Oh yeah, so these are going to be your two. So we've got on the right, these are some of the most expensive and expensive for the Neo Geo. So we've got Samurai Spirits Ray Special. It's the Shuseiban. I think that means I don't know. I guess it went through, this is the revised version of Samurai Spirits Ray. It is $1,800. I've seen it go for like 2,500 at Mandarake, like in really good condition. On the left, we've got Rage of the Dragons going for $2,700. Whoa, okay. And, Samurai Spirits fighting game. Rage of the Dragons, is that a fighting game? Or is that like a belt-scrolling game? I can't remember. I've not played it. Then we've got, whoa, okay, all right. So these are the heavy hitters on this row. We've got Sengoku. I can't remember. I don't know what the last two kanji are. Sengoku 2001 is going for $2,500. And then on the right, we've got, was this Art of Fighting? I can't remember what this is in English, and I don't know how to say the kanji. It's going for $600. My God, it's like Flower of the Moon Warrior. I know what the kanji means. I just don't know how to read it. Then we've got Burning Fight on the left going for $400. And then we've got the Super Spy on the right for almost $200. Wow. And I thought, you think Game Boy Advance games complete are expensive? Just don't even get into the Neo Geo. Here we've got two great shooters for the Neo Geo. We've got in the cardboard. It's really interesting to me. It had, so Aso 2, Last Guardian, it has the same sort of, I think a bunch of the original, like the first release Neo Geo games, they didn't come in the clamshell. They came in cardboard boxes. So Aso 2 here is $240, and then we've got Sonic Wings 2 on the right for $580. This is one where I just recommend getting the Neo Geo CD version because I think it's like $30 or $40. But man, yeah, I would love to have the cartridge Sonic Wings 2. Love the Sonic Wings series. Good scrolling shooters. And then going past that, here we go to the bottom. We've got Viewpoint going for $800. That's another one I would say buy the Neo Geo CD version. It's like $30, $40 at this point, even though Neo Geo CD prices really have gone up. And then on the right, we've got Ninja Masters going for $1,965. Just whoa. Wow. That's just absolutely incredible. So I think, looking at the bar, that's it for this showcase. That is just mind-popping how expensive Neo Geo CD games, Neo Geo CD games also, but the Neo Geo ROM games, absolutely incredible. We had this was a really great showcase. We had some of the most expensive games for these old consoles. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I was able to pass on some of the knowledge that I have about these games. Really had a lot of fun making this video. I'm going to be making a lot more just sort of showcase videos like this. I actually thought this went really successfully. So if you've made it this far, I am your man in Japan, Jay Contra. Actually, next video I'm going to be doing another showcase that was in Trader. I actually have a bunch of showcases. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be coming out eventually. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. And mahalo.